You've probably heard this story before. Guy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married, they have kids, then a pretty little house and a picket fence. Or maybe you've heard the more modern version of that story. Person swipes right on other person, then after years of a complicated, undefined relationship, they finally decide to foster a cat or a plant together. Possibly the least common version of this is person never meets other person face to face, not until they fall in love and get engaged. Then 4 weeks after meeting for the first time in person, they stand in front of their closest friends and family and either get married or separate forever. This all in a bid to find out whether or not love is blind. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm on the couch. All right, this is Ronald, and I am on the couch after watching Love is Blind, Season 5. Love is Blind, created by Coelen, available on Netflix. For a full list of cast and participants, you can check the link in our show notes. Now, when you're hearing this, I am recording this before the Friday episodes, which come out on October 13th, and I'm recording this before the finale, which comes out on October 15th. And if you want to hear my thoughts on both of those two things, you can go to our Patreon, where we will be putting a video up. It'll be me and Nicole Hill. We'll put that up next week. Or by the time you're hearing this, it'll be later this week that you'll see it up on the Patreon. If it's not up there already by the time you're hearing this, because I think you'll be hearing this on Monday, October 16th. So at some point that week, you can hear my thoughts on the rest of Love is Blind Season 5. I'm just here right now to talk about the bit of Love is Blind we've had to watch up into this moment. So far, this has been a trash season of the show. And when I say trash, I mean there's kind of two things at play here. On the one hand, we have a season by reality standards, has a lot of drama and is compelling to watch. But by the standards of the show's premise, which is Love is Blind, they meet in the pods, and then they have to get married afterwards, they only are showing two couples right now. Two couples. Those couples are Milton and Lydia, and Izzy and Stacy. And there's nothing really compelling about each couple, except one of them probably creates for a toxic dynamic in Izzy and Stacy, and the other is a bit of a May-December romance. Not really, they're only 6 years apart, but it seems to be kind of the thing that the two of them can't seem to get away from. The drama that surrounds kind of the people in these two relationships has just been, it's been polarizing, to say the least. You know, there's other characters that we know. If you've been watching the show, there's Uche, there's Aaliyah, there's Johnny, there's Chris. There's so many people involved, and there's so much animosity among different factions of all of these groups. Mainly with Uche coming in and kind of being a trash bag of a human, in my opinion anyway. I know some people disagree with that, but in my opinion, this season kind of starts with, the regular premise that these couples are all getting together. But we're hearing a lot from behind the scenes that we're missing couples. There's couples that got engaged that they didn't put into the final document, which is kind of wild. And it's not wild in that it's unusual, because in past seasons they've done this as well. But it is wild in that this season there are only two couples left. When they left the pods, they only left with three couples, and one of them was never on solid ground. And when that one broke apart, that one being Taylor and JP, there was kind of nothing left for us to watch at this point. I don't think that either of these couples are going to get married. By the time you hear this, you'll already know whether they're married or not, and I'll have a lot more to say about that. But I think a lot of what I have to think about for this season is like it just seems like they're not doing a very job producing a good show. They're producing a show that has a lot of drama, which I think if that was it alone, then yes, they would have checked all the boxes. And I think because producers of reality television all know that drama creates good television, they think that if they have drama, then they've turned in what they were supposed to turn in. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Netflix executives who saw the footage from season 5 and thought, oh, this is pretty good. This is good stuff we got here. This is, we got a lot of drama. There's screaming, there's crying, there's uncertainty, there's all kinds of things going on. This is another good season of Love Is Blind in the books. But I think one of the different parts, and the thing that gets me is I think for me the last good season was probably season 3. Season 4 was boring in my opinion, and season 5 is like it looks like it's frayed. And I say season 3 was still good because we had, if I'm not mistaken, Bartise was in that season, and to have Bartise there, to have Cole and Zaynab, to have Raven and SK, there was a lot of pretty interesting couples in that season. And there was 2 couples that stayed together, like Alexa and Brennan stayed together. Colleen and Matt stayed together. We're all still speculative about Colleen and Matt's relationship. I don't trust it. And they just moved together. They just moved in together in June 2023. They got married in summer 2021 and moved in together 2 years later, which is wild to me. I don't know how that relationship is actually going to last. But again, there was enough drama there. The drama was different. It was not so, I would say universal, universe, and the show being the universe, that it kind of like seeped into all of the other relationships, tainting a full season. And this season feels like that is the case. Between Izzy and Lydia, they have kind of creeped into several other relationships in a way that's not fun to watch. I mean, Izzy and Lydia were at one point going to be a couple, or in the pods at least were a couple. Izzy was not interested in Lydia, broke things off there. Lydia used to date Uche, which ruined Uche's relationship with Aaliyah. But in Aaliyah's defense, it wasn't exactly Lydia that ruined that relationship as much as Uche not really doing a good job of managing any of that. And him also kind of having to be right all the time. Like he doesn't really see where he made the mistake in all of those interactions, which was absolute garbage to kind of watch play out. Then you have Izzy on the other hand, who was dealing with Johnny and Stacy. And when Johnny put all of her eggs in Izzy's basket and Izzy turned her down, at some point he started turning this into a conversation between him and Chris and the other guys and with Stacy about how Johnny is crazy and she had all her eggs in his basket, and why would she then turn around and tell Chris something different and all of that, which kind of turns it makes Izzy and Stacy later on in this kind of pod squad meeting look like supervillains. And I don't know. I feel like a little drama is fine. A little bit of, hey, this dude's a jerk, we don't like hanging out with him, is fine. You know what I mean? Like kind of what was happening with Cole on season 3, where they were like, hey, you could have been nicer to Zaynab. And it turns out, it's so funny because it turns out that Cole might have not been that bad with Zaynab based on Love Is Blind showing us what happened with the cuties thing later on. But that's the type of drama I like. The type of drama where we're actually not sure who the bad guy or the good guy is. Is this just a misunderstanding? Like there are some unadulterated villains in Love Is Blind season 5. And the problem is there's so many villains. I'm not rooting for any of these relationships. I think all of these people should stay very far away from each other. And this should be over. I hope that neither one of these marriages make it. Now, I will say I'm excited because the reunion is not live. And by the time y'all are listening to this, you could jump over to the Patreon and see exactly what me and Nick thought of the reunion, which I'm excited to share my thoughts on that, because as of right now, I don't want anyone to get married. And I really hope that by the time we listen to those, I'm saying, yes, nobody got married. All in all, this isn't a good season. Not enjoying it, not good. I'll definitely watch the next season, season 6, which I think is finally the DC season, which is the one I'm really excited about. But this one is just not being good, not enjoyable. They're not nice to each other. The producers are setting them up to fail. I wish they would have shown the other boring couples. Like maybe there were other couples on here that like also didn't make, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe there were so many couples that didn't get married from this season of Love is Blind that they just showed the two that had the most drama or had the most wide reaching kind of like consequences of the season. We don't know yet. And hopefully a lot more of that stuff starts to come out. TikTok detectives, do your worst, please. But yeah, I'd give this season 2 of 5 stars. I did not like it. Not very good at all. And with that, leaving the theaters, a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. To find out more about Love is Blind, check out our show notes for details. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at Oh It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Ron Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon, but until then, I'll be here on the couch.